Live from the WNNE TV studios, it's News 31, The Night Report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Beaty. Thank you for joining us. State funding for New Hampshire's public schools has once again stirred debate among lawmakers. Today, legislation was introduced that would require full funding of the state's education funding formula, known as Augenblick. News 31's Craig Shibley has more.
The Senate Education Committee today held a public hearing on Senate Bill 119, requiring the state to fully fund the Augenblick formula by the 1997 fiscal year. Passage of the bill would mean an additional $63 million in state aid to towns, a sum that caused much partisan debate among committee members.
I think this is pretty graphic evidence that the formula is absurd.
We have a school district right here in town that holds bake sales to buy textbooks. We know there's something wrong with the system.
Freshman Senator Sylvia Larson introduced Senate Bill 119.
We need state aid to equalize that educational opportunity for every child in this state.
Senate Bill 119 is co-sponsored by 5 other Democrats. None of them supports a broad-based tax to fund it, but they also didn't offer any alternative, a detail that concerns many Republicans.
There's no evidence that that would significantly improve education. We have other much more serious structural problems in public education which should be addressed where we know that we can improve the quality of education. This bill is misdirected.
Republicans claim 60% of the money aimed at fully funding the bill would actually go to towns with an above-average fiscal capacity. As supporters and opponents of Senate Bill 119 divided along party lines, the governor added his opinion in this letter to members of the Education Committee, calling the bill fiscally irresponsible and urging members to soundly defeat it.
The sponsors of this bill know that there is no money in the bill to pay for it.
This is a priority for the state of New Hampshire, and we are going to solve it because we're going to be willing to rise above that partisan rhetoric.
Craig Shibley, News 31, Concord, New Hampshire.
Larson told News 31, even if the bill gets out of committee, there still may not be enough support in the Republican-controlled Senate. A Vermont man dead tonight, trapped in an avalanche while skiing in Arizona. Police say 21-year-old Richard Nurzinski of Charlotte was snowboarding outside of skiing boundaries and couldn't escape from the snow that was falling in around him. Rescuers worked for 5 hours trying to pull him from the mounds of snow and rushed him to a nearby hospital where he died only hours later. New Hampshire authorities say a 39-year-old man whose body was found in a Laconia hotel room over the weekend probably wasn't murdered. The state attorney general's office now believes Matthew Robinson of Lebanon may have accidentally overdosed on drugs.
At this point, the state police feel that things are pretty much wrapped up with this investigation. It doesn't look like there's anything suspicious surrounding his death. And the state police are pretty much ready to wind it up, except for waiting for the toxicology results on the autopsy.
Rundles told News 31 the toxicology results should be available in a couple of weeks. Authorities are investigating the cause of a fire that gutted a Cornish, New Hampshire home this morning. Flames were already shooting out of this house when firemen arrived just before 11 o'clock this morning.
We saw fire had already been through the roof, and it was coming out the front end of the thing towards the road. So it was pretty well fully involved when we arrived.
Michael Marsh, who owns the house, was luckily not home at the time. Little was left of the inside of the home, and damage is estimated at more than $50,000. More than 20 firefighters from Meriden, Cornish, and Plainfield helped in fighting the fire. He's been convicted of killing a baby, but his lawyers say he should go free. Thomas Olson was convicted of shaking 2-year-old Melissa Stevens to death in Springfield, Vermont in 1993. He is appealing his murder conviction on the grounds prosecutors failed to prove that he willfully killed the child. Olson claims the child's babysitter abused her and that she caused her death. Olson is scheduled to be sentenced on February 15th. The Upper Valley appears to be the place to be for some economic stability. The unemployment rate for the Lebanon White River Junction area is the lowest among both Vermont and New Hampshire, and employment officials say it's been that way for years. Many describe it as slow but steady. Still, News 31's Tina Detel found some signs that it's also growing.
Here we grow again. That sign in front of this soon-to-be McDonald's restaurant could be a sign of the times for the Upper Valley.
Things seem to be really picking up around this area. I know a lot of electrical contractors and there's a lot of building trades people are real busy right now.
Winter is usually a slow season for construction workers, but projects like this are keeping many busy and employed. The unemployment rate in the White River Junction and Lebanon area is the lowest in the Twin States. Still, there's a little more than 1,000 folks out of work, but officials say it's not for a lack of jobs.
It's a matter of trying to get them to focus maybe on something about the jobs they've had that might relate to some other job that's being done in the area.
And some businesses are starting to expand again.
Some companies are starting to reinvest in new equipment and such, and I think in the past they might have been a little hesitant.
Still, home mortgages are down, and that means a lot less people are buying houses. But the bankers we talked to said there are a lot of factors that come into play.
A certain amount of debt may have some stigma attached to it, so people are reluctant to get too heavily indebted. And I think interest rates also play a factor as interest rates rise.
The perception of folks we talked to, though, was split.
Not doing too great right now. It's a lack on work. We need more work.
Well, I think it's doing better. I think it's in a reverse. We hope it's for the better.
Officials contribute the Upper Valley's stable economy to the institutional and health field opportunities in the area. Tina Dettell, News 31, Lebanon.
You might not expect property taxes and education reform to go together, but the two are shaping up as a major issue in the Vermont State House again this year. And already it looks like a major stumbling block as well. So far, the House has introduced 4 different reform bills. None of them is receiving any support. So the House opened itself up to feedback from the public today, and many of those there seem skeptical the legislature can see any reform at all.
Believes in support of these tax reform principles, not on which proposal compromises the most and still creates an appearance of reform.
The House has proposed shifting local school funding to the state to increase equity in education, but some lawmakers said today that could mean higher income taxes. Well, still to come on the Night Report, President Clinton speaks to Democratic leaders in Boston tonight. And just how safe is the meat you eat? Hear how the government may finally be cracking down on processing plants. Stay tuned.
MCI friends and family customers.
In Washington today, abandoned by Congress, President Clinton ordered $20 billion in U.S. loan guarantees to the Mexican government in an attempt to bail out the country's hurting economy. It's a controversial move by the president and one that has political and economic insiders seething. Steve Handelsman has more on the story from Washington.
To bail out Mexico and to prove he can stand up to Republicans, the president is dipping into a fund that was set aside to back the U.S. dollar in currency crises. It's never been used to help another country. Clinton's new Mexican bailout plan, $20 billion in U.S. funds, $17.5 billion from the International Monetary Fund, $10 billion from BIS, another international bank, all for loan guarantees.
That means that in the aggregate, we will be able to have an action that is potentially even more aggressive than the $40 billion one I originally proposed.
Clinton learned last night his $40 billion couldn't pass Congress. He doesn't need an okay for his new plan. He says his actions aimed at protecting U.S. trade with Mexico and U.S. jobs that depend on it, and preventing more Mexicans from entering the U.S. illegally to find work. Quickly today, Mexican stocks and the peso gained in value, and Ross Perot claimed Clinton was tricked.
Oh my gosh, the Mexican just told me the sky is falling. The sky must be falling. We must act immediately and bankrupt our country. Give me a break.
Perot testified at a Senate hearing where many opposed the bailout. They say Mexican politicians should pay for their mistakes, that U.S. speculators who made billions on the Mexican boom knew the risks, and that the White House wasn't watching.
What did the administration know about Mexico, and when did it know it?
Now that Congress doesn't have a hand in the bailout, President Clinton's taking all the political heat, and already he's being asked why he's demanding more financial responsibility from Americans on welfare while he bails out Mexican millionaires. I'm Steve Handelsman, NBC News at the White House.
President Clinton was in Boston tonight where he spoke at a fundraiser for the Democratic National Committee. Before the New England presidential dinner tonight, Clinton met with Boston's Inner City Youth Council. At his speech, the president stressed the need to solve the area's urban problems, especially the growing crime rate in Boston and across the nation as well. Saying far too many people were still getting sick and even dying from toxic meat and poultry, the Agriculture Department today proposed tough new rules to eliminate dangerous bacteria. You'll recall 2 years ago, 3 children died from eating hamburgers at a Jack in the Box restaurant, and their deaths created a public outrage that may finally be coming to an end. Sandy Gilmore reports.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture says toxic bacteria kill 4,000 Americans each year and make another 5 million people sick from meat and poultry alone. But since 1907, federal inspection has been based on the sight, touch, and smell of slaughtered animals, little actual microscopic testing for dangerous microbes. The USDA wants to change that.
We will, for the first time, be requiring slaughter plants to directly target and reduce the harmful bacteria in meat and poultry that can make people sick.
If adopted, the proposal would require more than 6,000 meat and poultry plants to start scientifically testing for bacteria, with a priority on deadly salmonella found, for example, in chicken. They will have to wash all carcasses with a special rinse, chill meat properly, and develop written procedures. After that, slaughterhouses would have to develop a thorough system known as hazard analysis and control to prevent contamination. USDA estimates it would cost industry more than $200 million a year to comply and could meet resistance given the new anti-regulatory mood in Congress.
It's not about more regulation. It's about better, more effective, and more sensible regulation.
The rules could take up to a year to put into effect. Meantime, the meat and poultry industry has up to 4 months to respond. They say they're already doing some of the required testing. Sandy Gilmore, NBC News, Washington.
In the O.J. Simpson trial today, the prosecution finally began to present its case. 3 witnesses were called on to testify about the domestic abuse Nicole Simpson suffered from her ex-husband, in particular a case back in 1989. John Gibson is in Los Angeles with the latest.
This is Nicole Simpson's face after the 1989 911 call at O.J. Simpson's mansion in Brentwood. And this is Nicole Simpson standing at the police station a little later, wearing pants that were muddied in a struggle with her husband.
She had a cut approximately 1 inch, I believe, on her left upper lip. She had a swollen right forehead, and she had a hand imprint on her throat.
When he arrived on the scene, Edwards was greeted by Nicole Simpson running from the house.
She collapsed on it and started yelling, "He's going to kill me, he's going to kill me."
Earlier, a 911 operator was on the stand, and a recording of an emergency call placed by Nicole Simpson that morning was played.
You calling from 360 North Rockingham.
The operator testified she could hear the sound of someone slapping someone else and the sound of a woman screaming. Detective Edwards went to the house and said O.J. Simpson was incredulous that the police wanted to arrest him.
He said, "You've been out here 8 times before, and now you're going to arrest me for this?"
Wall, please move back.
Outside court, the police bomb squad cleared the front of the courthouse after discovering a suspicious object in a newspaper box. The bomb scare did not interrupt testimony in the courtroom. The LAPD bomb squad exploded the device. It was not a bomb because there was not a secondary explosion. John Gibson, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And it was just over a year ago when a gunman opened fire on a Long Island subway train, killing 6 people. Today, Colin Ferguson's trial proved an especially tough one for the families of those who died. Carolyn Gusoff has more.
He died as a result of that gunshot wound to the head that perforated his brain and fractured his skull.
It was a grueling day for the victims' families. Graphic testimony about how each of the 6 killed aboard the 533 train died. Throughout, Colin Ferguson would not look at any of the autopsy photos. He told his advisor they made him sick. nor did he cross-examine at length the experts.
Dr. Hinton, the autopsy examination you performed in no way determines the identity of a shooter on a train. Am I correct?
That is correct.
And you were not an eyewitness to an incident on a train on December 7, 1993?
No, I was not an eyewitness.
No further questions.
A stipulation by Ferguson did spare Carolyn McCarthy and the other victims' relatives from having to take the stand to identify their loved ones' remains. Ferguson said he agreed to it out of sympathy.
I have no comment. This is sympathy. I'm here representing my husband. I don't want people to forget that 6 people did die.
There is still a chance, according to legal advisor Alton Rose, that he can convince Ferguson to change strategy. Rose says Ferguson might be competent now, but at the time of the shooting was temporarily insane.
And we are saying if he did these acts, that person on December the 7th, 1993 could not have been in their right mind.
Whatever's in his mind now, Ferguson continues to claim he was framed, the victim of a covert government conspiracy. And he continues with plans to subpoena the president and former Governor Cuomo. And he says he may call the prosecutor to the stand.
Well, it looks like February isn't going to be much different than January was weather-wise. I'll have all the details in the forecast coming up next.
There are 3 great small sedans out there: Civic DX, Corolla. It takes so little to save our rivers and oceans for future generations. Ad councils of the U.S. and Japan.
Well, February may turn out to be a month filled with winter weather, but it's not going to start out that way. Just some scattered snow flurries to our north overnight and Wednesday before more seasonable air arrives by this time tomorrow night to usher in even stronger snow. But all told, no accumulation to speak of any time in the foreseeable future. Taking a look at our current conditions, it's 35 degrees outside, humidity at 56%, winds out of the southwest at 6 miles an hour. Elsewhere in Montpelier, 33 degrees tonight, Burlington 35, Concord 34, Keene 33, and Mount Washington cooling things off at 9 degrees. So again for the forecast tonight, cloudy, a chance of some light snow to the north, lows only getting down into the mid-20s. Then tomorrow, mostly cloudy, scattered flurries, but warm, highs around 40. Then tomorrow night, cloudy again, snow again, lows a bit chillier than tonight, around 15. And then for Thursday, cloudy, snow again, highs only approaching 30. Well, Mark Sudol is in with sports, a big local upset in boys basketball. Stick around, sports is next.
Making it to the pros takes a certain level of excellence. The experience.
Well, Mark is in with sports, and a wild one to say the least in Lebanon tonight, huh?
I guess phenomenal, if I can get it out, is probably the word tonight. That's a tough one to say. This is just hard to believe, Julie and everybody. We are talking upset tonight. The Lebanon boys basketball team coming into tonight's game had a record of 11-0, and Kearsarge posting a 3-8 mark, plus Lebanon was at home. Coming into this one, Kearsarge a little wet behind the ears, but not at the end. Lebanon looked like they would have no problem. Chris Childs with the bucket, and Mike Hussey will come up here running the floor. Looked like another Lebanon win. He drives the hoop, looking all right. Second half, though, Kearsarge makes it a game. Loose ball is picked up and put in by Todd Matei. Right here, little bumping and grinding going on down below there. Then with precious time left on the clock, Peter Lavel-Pacello hits this brick to win it. Let's check out some of the high school scores for you tonight. Kearsarge by 1, 44-43. Hartford wins. Jesse Kells and Jeremy Batchelder with 14 points. Elsewhere, Muskoma wins. Windsor wallops Mill River. Windsor now wins 27 in a row. On the girls' side, Lebanon over Kearsarge. They are now 13-1, the Lady Raiders. Elsewhere, Bellows Falls by 13 over Hartford. Muskoma wins to improve to 14-3, and Orford beats Newfound. Well, a former Dartmouth basketball player returns to the court in Hanover tonight. Only his playing days are over. Now Derek Bunting is an assistant coach for the Maine Black Bears. And look at the Maine bench and head coach Rudy Keeling. Black Bears pick Jamie Halligan's pocket. It's Ken Barnes doing the honors and getting the slam to boot. And you have to figure Shea Lonergan is going to get into the scoring. He had 13 points tonight. Big Green, where he is on his fast break, getting it done. Maine gets a 3 out of Casey Arana, the junior guard. 25 points for him on the night. Big Green running again. Lonergan, Jacob Caps to finish off the run. Let's check how they did tonight. A little bit short, 71-60. Maine comes out on top. Elsewhere on the scoreboard for you in Big East action, Connecticut wins 82-57. Plymouth State, a winner over Southern Maine. New Hampshire, by the way, beat Harvard 73-64. Well, it seems Celtics coach Chris Ford still has an idea. He'll switch the lineup around tomorrow. The Charlotte Hornets are in the Commonwealth to play Boston. They bring with them former Celtic Robert Parrish and a very good record, I might add. Warriors and Knicks tonight at MSG. Derek Harper was 9 of 13 from the field, including 7 from three-point land. His 7th three-pointer came with 24 seconds left and proved to be the difference in this game tonight as the Knicks go on to win it 90-87. Here is some of the NBA scores for you tonight. Charlotte, they'll be playing the Celtics, as we mentioned. Tyrone Bogues with 20 points. Elsewhere, Milwaukee by 2, and Denver beaten by Houston. Well, Ottawa's winless Senators visit the Bruins Thursday. The Bees looking to score more goals. That's their plan. They have only put 9 pucks in the nets thus far in 5 games. That won't always win them for you. As you know, you got to score those goals sometime. The Islanders and the Panthers tonight. Power play. There's a goal for Steve Thomas of the Islanders. 2-1 Isle. Power play again. Pierre Turgeon. 3-1 New York. They do it again. Power play goals all night for the Isle. Steve Thomas scores again. Make it 4-1 at 3:34. The third period. They win it pretty handily tonight. As here's some of the other scores in the NHL. Quebec 5-2. Nords still unbeaten. New Jersey wins their first one of the year. Tampa Bay by 3. And there's that Islanders score. Steve Thomas with 2 power play goals. And we have a chance to catch up on the Super Bowl from this weekend. You know, the Nielsen ratings are out. 41.33% of the nation's TV homes watch the Super Bowl, and that's comparing with other ones. That's 4 percentage points below from last year's game. And,
That's a bunch of them are mad too over the spread.
Oh yes, 19 points.
Yeah. We'll be back with more right after this. Well, that's our report tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here again tomorrow night. Good night.
Good night.